Finesse2Tymes just went on Instagram asking the internet for help before he does something he knows he might regret. A man with a criminal record, a man who already served 5 years in federal prison, a Memphis street veteran who rebuilt himself from zero, is now publicly asking for someone to step in and stop him. And the reason he's at that breaking point right now, the reason everything is unfolding in real time for millions to see, is tied to one name. J. Prince Jr. Mob Ties Records, a contract Finesse says he finally went through line by line. And what he claims he found inside that paperwork has him broken. Y'all need to pay attention, because this is not your typical label dispute. This is not two artists throwing shots online. This is a man who beat federal time, came home, rebuilt his career, earned gold plaques and sold out shows, now sitting on Instagram Live nearly in tears saying he feels trapped, saying he's not getting paid, right? Saying he regrets signing, and now openly telling the world he needs someone to calm him down before he snaps. This is a full alert situation right now, and everybody in the streets and online is watching every move. Let me walk you through it from the start. Every detail, every post, every number, every rant coming from that contract, because once you really see what Finesse2Tymes is dealing with, you'll understand why he's reached his limit, and you'll start asking the same question the whole internet is asking: why won't J. Prince Jr. just release him? To understand how things got here, we've got to go way back, because Finesse2Tymes isn't just some random rapper who got caught in a bad deal without knowing better. This is a man who's already been through it. Multiple times born, Ricky Hampton in Memphis, Tennessee, one of the toughest cities to out of in America. Memphis rap is its own world, raw, real, no filter, and Finesse grew up in that environment, absorbing everything around him. Both the music and the streets caught him before fame ever did, before the features, before the industry, before any of that. Finesse ended up facing a federal case that sent him away for 5 years. 5 years in federal prison, no parole, day for day time. Nothing but space to think about life after release. And when he came home, he had a plan. Music was going to be his way out. He was going to take everything he lived through and turn it into records. And for a moment it looked like it was working. He came back and dropped again, and one of those records didn't just do numbers, it went gold certified. That's real success. No debate. A back end was everywhere that summer. Memphis was lit. Finesse2Tymes was up, and the industry started paying attention. Labels started calling. The machine came knocking, and that's where things start shifting, because when the industry comes for someone like Finesse, someone from the streets, no legal team fully protecting him, hungry for the opportunity, that's when contracts get signed. That shouldn't be signed. That's when fine print turns into traps. That's when you realize later the dream was actually a cage built while you were excited to get in. J. Prince Jr. and Mob Ties stepped in, and Finesse signed. Now here's where it gets serious, because the contract details that have surfaced are wild, and once hear the breakdown, you immediately understand why Finesse2Tymes feels the way he feels. According to reports breaking down the structure of the deal, the split works like this. Finesse2Tymes gets 35% of his music revenue. J. Prince Jr. as Mob Ties gets 35%, and then this is the part that really shocks people. J. Prince Sr. also takes 30%. Let that sink in. The artist gets 35% for the voice, the face, the performances, the work, while two other parties split 65% of everything he generates. That's not just a deal, that's a heavy imbalance. That's Finesse working full-time to build value that gets mostly divided elsewhere, and it goes deeper than just percentages, because the money doesn't even flow directly. The deal reportedly runs through Atlantic Records and Bread Gang Entertainment, meaning every dollar gets split multiple ways before it even reaches him. Atlantic takes a cut, Bread Gang takes a cut. Mob Ties takes a cut, J. Prince Sr. takes his share, and whatever is left at the bottom is what Finesse receives. This is why he straight up said, and I quote, "A Mob Ties, the worst deal I ever signed. I should have just gone to Atlantic by myself." Think about what that means. He's basically saying going straight to a major label alone would have been better than the structure he's currently in. That says everything about how he views the situation now. And here's the part that really hits. Finesse already proved himself. He already has gold plaques. He already built a real fan base and commercial success. He wasn't an unknown artist needing rescue. He was already moving. So signing this type of split at that stage means he gave up major leverage right when he had it. That can come down to poor guidance, pressure, or timing. But either way, the result is the same. He's locked in and now he's trying to get out, and this didn't explode overnight. It's been building slowly, publicly, like pressure rising in a sealed container. By late 2025, Finesse starts posting more frequently. At first it looks like typical industry frustration, nothing unusual for rap social media, but then the tone shifts, the messages get sharper, the frustration gets louder, people who understand the industry start noticing something is off. Then, January 2nd, 26 hits New Year energy, but Finesse2Tymes uses it to send a direct message, no subliminals, no coded language, no vague hints, straight up kill out. He gets on Instagram and says it directly to J Prince Jr. I want out my contract. I don't want to be mobtized no more. I want my own tea. Let me go, Jr. The internet instantly goes into overdrive. Academics catches it, no jumper picks it up, and every major hip-hop media page in the country starts running with the story. Fans immediately split into sides. Some are saying Finesse has to honor the contract. Others are convinced the label is straight up robbing him. And then there's the group that actually understands the culture, the ones who know what it means when a street artist gets caught in a corporate machine. They're the ones genuinely worried about what Finesse might do next, because here's what people outside his background might not fully yet understand. This is not some sheltered industry artist complaining about creative differences. This is a man who did 5 years in federal prison, a man who survived situations that would mentally break most people, a Memphis native where the street code is real and disrespect has real consequences. So when someone like that starts publicly saying he feels trapped, saying he feels like a slave, saying he doesn't even want to make music anymore because what's the point? That's not just online talk. That's a man standing at a serious crossroads. But J Prince Jr. doesn't respond with empathy. He doesn't reach out privately. He doesn't call a meeting or try to resolve anything. Instead, he trolls. March 30th, 2026, J Prince Jr. posts on Instagram. And what does he post? No contract talk, no revenue breakdown, no attempt to fix anything. Instead, he goes at Finesse2Tymes' appearance, mocking him over alleged cosmetic surgery, talking about lipo body image and hair, months of public distress from Finesse, and the response is jokes about his looks, and that says everything. That's not a businessman trying to resolve conflict. That's someone making a power statement, reminding the artist who holds control, a dominance move, a public humiliation tactic, basically saying, I don't have to take you seriously, and you can't force me to let you go. Finesse fires back in the comments, the difference between me and you is I accept who I am. You don't. And in his Instagram story, he adds, shouldn't have let that hustle cartel looking dude touch my plaque at that studio. Now stop playing with me. Then comes the line that really shakes the internet. A G sat back and watched me be depressed. Read that again. He's basically saying people around him, the label, the structure that's supposed to protect him, have been watching him fall apart without stepping in. Not because they couldn't help, but because a broken, emotionally drained artist is easier to control than a confident one who knows his worth. Now let's connect the dots, because on the surface this looks like a simple label dispute, artist unhappy, label refusing to release him, but it's deeper than that. Layer 1. The Prince family legacy. J Prince Jr. isn't operating alone. His father, J Prince Sr., is a major figure in Houston hip-hop history through Rap-A-Lot Records, so signing to Mob Ties isn't just signing to a label, it's entering a whole family power structure with deep industry influence that creates pressure, loyalty, expectations, and a sense of entrapment when things go wrong. Layer 2. The Moneybagg Yo connection. This Mob Ties structure also runs through Bread Gang Entertainment, tied to Moneybagg Yo. Then, in January 2026, Finesse gets arrested in Dallas on drug-related charges. After getting out, he goes on Instagram and directly accuses Moneybagg Yo of putting police on him. No proof confirmed. Publicly publicly, earned 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 publicly, and money 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 earned publicly, and Moneybagg hasn't responded, but the accusation adds another layer of tension and paranoia to the situation. Layer 3. The money reality Finesse himself has said he hasn't seen the kind of money he expected from this deal. He openly admitted he thought life would be way better. He said he's not asking for sympathy, just being honest. He expected more from his career. That statement alone shows the disconnect between success on paper and actual earnings. Layer 4. Mental health. This is where things get heavy. Finesse has gone on Instagram live and openly cried. Not a staged interview, not a controlled media moment, just raw emotion in real time. A man who built his identity on toughness breaking down in front of his audience that's not content. That's pressure finally overflowing. And instead of urgency or resolution, the response from the label side comes months later in the form of jokes about liposuction. Then the situation escalates further after months of tension. Finesse posts something that freezes the internet. He says he needs help. He says he needs people to talk to him before he does something he'll regret. And people who understand the street mentality know exactly what that means. From that background, don't publicly ask for help like that. They don't admit they're at the edge. So for him to break that code means the pressure had reached an extreme point. What's driving it? Everything stacking at once. The contract he can't escape, the label refusing negotiation, the money he expected but never received, the disrespect being thrown publicly, legal issues in the background, family, financial pressure, and no clear way out. The internet reacts with concern. Fans show love. Artists check in, but the only person who could actually fix it, J. Prince Jr., stays silent on the core issue while continuing to troll. So where does it stand? Finesse2Tymes is still locked into the mob ties contract. No confirmed exit, no resolution, no public agreement. He's still legally bound to a deal. He has openly called it the worst he ever signed, and one he feels is killing his motivation to create music. And that matters because when an artist stops making music due to feeling trapped, that's not just personal, it's cultural loss. Memphis has always relied on voices like his. Meanwhile, industry perception is shifting. Every new post, every new breakdown, every new fan discussion around that 35-30 split chips away at mob ties' reputation because artists talk, managers talk, executives talk, and right now the narrative forming is simple. Artists get locked in and don't get released. Moneybagg, Yo stays silent, Atlantic stays in the background. But silence in situations like this always gets interpreted as something in itself, and at the center of it all, Finesse2Tymes is still trying to figure out how to get out of a situation he now feels mentally, financially, and emotionally trapped inside of.